All right. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects. We're going to be talking about healing relationships.
Yes.
Andrew, are you in need of any relationship rescue? Do you have anybody that you need to heal the relationship with?
Yes.
Who?
Well,
Don't say your mother.
no, with my ex-girlfriend.
With your ex-girlfriend. Ooh, that sounds good. Tell me about that. Why would you want to heal that relationship? What happened?
Because I think...
Oh, you know what? I don't think they can see you. Yeah, because look, I'm looking at the... You have to move in. The people want to see Andrew. Tell me. Okay, so tell me again.
So I think I'm over it, and she doesn't seem to understand that.
Oh, look at it. I'm going to primp while you talk. You are over the relationship, and she
Yeah.
doesn't seem to understand it?
Exactly.
Is she a stalker? Is she stalking you,
Yeah,
Andrew?
she is.
She is, really? Is she cyber stalking you?
Yeah.
Wow. We'll talk about that later on. So what would you like in this? What would you like to do? How would you like the healing to take place? Be a little bit more specific.
I
What
would
do you
like
mean?
her to understand that we could see other people, and when I do, she shouldn't be affected by it.
Yeah, good luck with that. Okay, so she...
We have 2 new members.
We do? All right. What are their names?
Gary Raisin
Uh-huh.
and Mary Schmidt.
Mary Schmidt and Gary Raisin. Where are they from?
They haven't said.
Okay, well, it's good to have you, Gary and Mary.
Yeah.
Gary and Mary. I wonder if you did that on purpose. It's good to have you. Thanks for being members, and thanks for being here today.
And apparently the girl from Cheerland Hills, Buckinghamshire lady is here.
Yeah, oh, from England. We got our Buckinghamshire woman.
Yep.
Great. Okay. You know, I'm going to move over this way, Andrew, so that you can sit down more comfortably. What do you think of that? Hiya! What do you think of that?
Okay.
Okay. If you have not yet had a chance to listen to or review my 9 Principles program, when you're looking for some relationship healing, really there are only 9 principles that if you focus on or reflect on each one of these principles and apply the teachings to your relationship that you need healing, there is no relationship issue that it can't heal. Really, there's nothing that it can't overcome that I have found yet. If you can find something that it does not apply to, I'd be happy to hear it because I have not yet found that. So, while I finish combing my hair, let's talk about those 9 principles. For example, we have the handsome and talented Andrew, and he was just mentioning that he wants his ex to understand. By the way, if there's any way to improve the resolution, that would be great. If not, it's okay. Okay. He would like his ex to understand that he is free to see other people, so she should be too. That's quite a trick. Let's start at the beginning. The 9 principles start out with, number 1, you can't cast out darkness with more darkness. Now, the way we would apply that, for example, to this relationship is going to be like this. Many times we find ourselves in a situation with somebody, and it could be at work, it could be at home, where they're being negative. You know, like let's say that they are cyber stalking us, you know, and leaving nasty messages posted in different social accounts, or they're, you know, driving by our house in the middle of the night and throwing eggs, Dakota. By the way, shout out to Carlos. Hello, Carlos. Speaking of this type of activity, and and sometimes if it's at work, let's say that we have a difficult coworker who is, and by the way, if you have a group of people at work that you need to hear, you know, healing messages, keep this in mind because it is not religious based. It is not any type of faith-based message. It's simply principles that have been shown to heal any relationships and to help you miraculously transform really your environment. So if you need a little environment transformation, this will also work. So let's say that you have a coworker, and this coworker is negative and they take pot shots at you. Let's say that they are sniper, okay? And many times what we will do is we will sit around thinking of how to combat that with similar or even worse behavior. You know what I mean? We will sit around thinking, oh, well, you know, if they said that to me, what am I going to say to them? You know, we sit around trying to figure out how to be the most unenlightened, ugliest communicator at work. Principle number 1, you can't cast out darkness with more darkness. So in this relationship, for example, let's say that if you are dealing with that, let's say that you are being cyber bullied. many times what we will do is we will try to strategize and try to beat the bully at his or her own game. First of all, we don't want to develop our bullying skills. We don't want to develop our stalking skills or our sniping skills or, any type of difficult behavior skills, right? I mean, when we are in our right mind, when we are thinking about things clearly, we realize I don't want to necessarily become a better sniper than that sniper or a better bully than that bully. Maybe my time would be better invested shining light onto this situation, because again, many times what we will try to do is we will think, I'm going to rise above that. I'm rising above this, I'm going to ignore it. And if something has been placed in our hands, it's for us to deal with. If a difficult person is bringing up something in us that we have noticed, it's outside of the regular day-to-day pattern that we become hypnotized to. Something is drawing our attention, and it's sometimes one of the principles is illusions tend to draw our attention. But in this case, we're starting out at the beginning and we're thinking, okay, this is something that has been brought to my attention, therefore I should work through it and then move past it so that I can get a more difficult lesson the next time. But I need to work through this. One way that has been guaranteed not to work through situations, guaranteed not to serve me or anyone else, is to try and cast out that darkness with more darkness. Many times we've experienced this in different situations. If we walk into a dark room, let's talking about the general laws of the universe, physics. If we walk into a dark room, those dark rooms that you've come in and you've been looking for the light switch, and it's so dark that it's almost impossible to find the light, and so then once we do find the light, we find the light switch and I found it, or we find a lighter or a flashlight and you turn it on and it just doesn't work because there's too much darkness. You know what I mean? You try to bring the light, but you cannot because the darkness is overwhelming. How that's never happened. You know what I mean? That doesn't happen because darkness isn't a real thing. If you look up the definition of darkness, if you haven't in a while, if you haven't ever, really thought about this, there is no such thing as darkness. Darkness is simply the absence of light. So when the two of them are competing for the same space, light always wins. Darkness is an illusion. It doesn't exist. It's just there hasn't been enough light yet brought into this area to show you that there's always light. It's just sometimes it's difficult to see. Therefore, it has no power. When you take negative energy and positive energy and put it together, positive energy wins over negative energy. I am not here to transform my environment. And another one of the principles that we should always go through is, am I here? The principle is, we are either transforming our environment or conforming to our environment. And there's a law of physics, the law of transference. The law of transference is, when I put a teaspoon in a hot cup of coffee, the teaspoon is going to start to take on the properties of the coffee and become hotter. The coffee is going to take on the properties of the teaspoon and become cooler until the two of them have found a common temperature. But they're always going to be transforming or conforming. You can't just sit in an environment and say, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm not going to pay any attention. I'm just going to let it roll right off of me. I'm going to rise above this. Rise above something else. If something has been put in front of you for you to deal with, how about this? Maybe we should think about, instead of trying to rise above the battle, illuminate the battlefield, shine light onto it, because when you do that, you will change the perspective you have. Bring light to the situation and say, you know what? I'm going to stop the cycle that maybe I have been in that has never given me the results that I want, because if it had, I would be self-actualized and I would not be dealing with this right now. I'm going to try something a little bit different. If I communicate tomorrow as I communicated yesterday, I will have the same experience tomorrow as I had yesterday. But instead, I'm going to communicate differently and I will get different results. So, having said that, the first thing you want to do when working through any relationship is recognize, for example, if Tootsie, your ex-girlfriend, is having such a difficult time, because there's, again, going back to these are not one of the 9 principles, but foundationally, I realize there's either going to be fear-based behavior or love-based behavior. And if Tootsie is somehow bringing fear-based or behavior that is unwanted, unwarranted, or unloving, loveless behavior to Andrew, it's not going to be because she loves him so much. It's going to be fear-based, right? And so she's afraid of something happening. She's afraid that he is the love she was searching for, right, Andrew?
Yes.
I can understand that. So she's so afraid that love has gone. And now, Andrew, you know what that's like.
Yes.
So we have to, I relate to Tootsie, because when we are not in our right minds, we will find what we think is the love we have been looking for in another person. When really, we all just have the same problem and there's just one answer. But we will find someone like Andrew, who I'm sure to some people is a lovely, attractive person. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's something lovable in him.
Everything.
And yeah, right?
Yeah.
Did she tell you what it is?
What?
What's lovable? What did she find so lovely about you?
That I'm a gentleman.
That he's a gentleman. Oh, that's great, Andrew. So she thought that was the love that she has been searching for, right? So then she found out, hey, wait a minute. You're not the love at all. You took my love away. I have less love now. Jesus, how could you have done that to me? Now I have less love in my life. And that, regardless of, how silly or, frivolous or insignificant we might see the lovely Andrew, that is a traumatic experience, right, Andrew?
It is.
Who besides me have you fallen in love with and then said, oh my gosh, I have lost that love? When has this happened? Do you remember this ever happening to you? You being so in love?
Yes, my first love.
His first love. Okay, now, when this love went away from you, that was traumatic, right?
Yes, it was.
Very traumatic. Like, we tend to forget that everybody is carrying around an entire world of horror, in their psyche that is preventing them from illuminating their little battlefield that they have, all of us, And so Tootsie, for example, the war that has been waged in her mind right now is the war that all of us are struggling through. She believes that love has escaped her, and she is afraid that it will not come back. And so that's number one. I want to recognize, if I'm going to help Tootsie through this so that she can overcome this, and that will, in the same process, will be helping me overcome and work through this, we have to recognize that, because anytime we are struggling with anything, and if somebody is, being aggressive towards us, when we think, yeah, well, I'll just be more aggressive towards you, that might be a temporary stall tactic, that can help us regroup, maybe. That will never be the solution. The only solution that we have ever found is to when something appears to have gone wrong, is a creative one. And creativity comes from the same energy, which is completely devoid. True creativity to create a new solution, maybe for an old problem, can only come from love, the light. That energy does not contain the negative energy that sometimes we look to for solutions. You hit me, I'll hit you back type of thing. So, Andrew, I wanted to cover that one principle, because when we have found ourselves in a situation in which we are stuck and we cannot move forward with the relationship, start at the beginning. Principle number one. By the way, the 9 principles are on my website at danorcondotraining.com in the store. Or you could get a VIP pass, which I recommend, and it'll give you access to everything. Always start out remembering, I cannot cast out this problem or go forward casting more lovelessness, darkness, or anything else onto this problem. Okay? So that's step number one. Now, by the way, I'm going to take a quick we're going to take a moment, because Andrew needs to regroup. He gets verklempt when he thinks about Tootsie. A lot that they went through. And I know that if Tootsie, if you're watching, I get it. I wouldn't find Andrew too difficult to get over, but I can understand how you might. It's your first one. So, Andrew, who do we have visiting us today, or what countries?
Well, Mary Schmidt says your hair is great.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
And we're combining.
You and I?
Yeah.
See, he does that. Before I come into work, he will. I don't know. See, these Alexas. Watch your Alexa. Remember, there's a button that you can use to close the. My device is offline. Oh, Alexa, stop.
Your device is offline.
She just has copped such an attitude ever since she got her little day in the sun. Remember when she was laughing at people and they, wrote a story about her? So remember, there's a little cover that you can use to cover the lens. If you don't cover that, people can look into your house 24 hours a day. So he comes dressed, trying to combine. He's trying to steal the spotlight. Andrew, there's enough light for everybody. The darkness doesn't exist. It's principle number 1, for heaven's sake. Okay.
G. Nelson says hi from California.
Hey, Gene. Gene or G?
G.
Hey,
Nelson.
G. Hey, G from California.
Became a member.
Great. Oh, thanks for becoming a member, G. I appreciate that.
Stephanie Lang says hi from Nottingham, England.
Nottingham. Hey, Stephanie from Nottingham.
Smart, Sexy, and Sophisticated says hi from Honolulu.
I'm not in Honolulu. What are you talking about? Oh, Smart, Sexy, and Sophisticated is the name of the...
yeah.
Oh, I see.
It's not you.
Okay. Hi, Honolulu. Mahalo. Okay.
Okay. Josie AP says Switzerland here.
Hey, Switzerland. Hey, can I ask you, Joe? Josie. Thank you, Josie. Josie from Switzerland. What is right now what's the time there, first of all? Oh, I should have, wait a minute, that might take a while for you to get the answer. Yeah. I apologize, Josie. Josie, I will ask you our question later on. I appreciate you tuning in because I believe that right now is a different hour for you. And if you either got up or stayed up for this show, I appreciate it, Josie. Who else is here?
Chris on Fry says hi from Romania.
Romania! Hey, Chris on a Fry from Romania.
And Sans 7779 says, Dan, how to repair a work relationship where you don't trust each other and have to let each other down.
Wait a minute, you have to let each other down?
And have to let each other down, yes.
Okay, there might be something I'm not understanding here, but the question is how to repair a work relationship when you
don't trust each other.
Where you don't trust each other and
have to let each other down.
And you have to let each other down. I'm not sure what that means. If it means that part of the relationship is I won't always be able to accomplish the task, or if it means that I know that I'm going to be letting you down soon. I don't know what that means. So regardless of it, the part that I do not understand, this is how. Go through the 9 principles. And again, the 9 principles is, I did not create the 9 principles. I collected them and then stuffed them into an audio program that I recently put up on DanO'ConnorTraining.com, which, by the way, again, if anybody wants to send me an email, I'm saying this because before I sent people to Gene and it got a little bit complicated. If you send me an email at dan@DanO'ConnorTraining.com and you're watching this program, I will send you a coupon code good for this group of people so that you can get 50% off of the VIP membership, which entitles you to anything. But if you have any work relationship or personal relationship that you need healing, where you need to that you need to heal, these 9 principles, if you go through them, there's no answers. If you go through them, by the time you are finished, if you have applied them and said, now, what does that mean to this relationship? You can't help but heal it and work through it. You can't. By the way, Andrew, do you happen to have the 9 principles with you? I ask you that because I'm going to go to principle number 2 and I want to make sure that I go through them in order. You don't happen to have that, do you? No. Could you just go to Dan O'Connor Training real quick? Oh, no, wait a minute. Yeah. Could you go to Dan O'Connor Training real quick?
Of course.
Thank you.
It's 9:47 in Ireland.
It's 9:47 in Ireland. Well, begosh and be glory. I hope to see Ireland someday, by the way, because evidently there is an O'Connor Castle. Did you know that, Andrew?
The Dracula Castle?
Not Dracula Castle, an O'Connor Castle.
Oh, O'Connor.
No, O'Connor, Andrew.
Okay. No.
Well, I'm going to go to it someday and reclaim.
Could you get in?
I'm reclaiming the throne. I think if my name is on the door, by the way, if you're our Irish brother, if my name is on the door, does that mean that do I get a discount if I want to sleep there at O'Connor Castle, anything like that? Just let me know, or can I go and at least use the restroom?
Oh no, I got confused. It's 9:47 in Switzerland.
It's 9:47 in Switzerland. That's a different country.
And MC Mindy says hi from Northern Ireland.
Hi, MC Mindy from Northern Ireland. It's great to have you here. My brother, if he's tuned in, should be very excited to be with his Irish brethren because he sees himself. There's a special relationship if speaking of relationships, we're taking a break, by the way, to let Andrew find principle number 2. If you go to the 9 principles if you go to search it, if you search Dan Penetrating 9 principles.
That's what I'm doing.
Great. There's a special relationship that the Irish and the Mexicans have always shared. And I think it's funny because I'm kind of torn between two lovers and feeling like Mexifool. Because I'm from North Dakota. We're Irish we are of Irish heritage. Although I never really felt a bond with the Irish heritage as my brother did. My brother always felt very Irish, and he's been to Ireland. My dad is an Irish citizen, and they've always been very, down with their Irish family. I, however, felt a pull down to Mexico. So I came down to Mexico, and here I am today, again, nestled in the bosom of the Sierra Madre, outside of the wonderful lakeside community of Chapala, Ajijic. And after I moved down here, I did a little research on some of the holidays, that Mexicans always tend to have, and realized that there was a group of, maybe you know this, Irish brethren, the Irish freedom fighters. Do you know what they were called? The Irish people who fought with the Mexicans in the Mexican-American War.
No.
Well, now you have another thing to put on your list, Andrew, of history. Irish, we have a history.
And it's 950 in Ireland.
Thanks for that update. when you look up like the Irish, it's something like the Irish freedom fighters or something like that. Maybe if you're online, tell me what it is. The Irish came specifically to fight with the Mexicans. And they kind of infiltrated this society because there's so many things that we have in common, the Irish and the Mexicans. The way that we tend to live, the way we tend to value family and home and work and play and all sorts of stuff. That they said, I feel like I'm home, those Irishmen did. And so the Irish and the Mexican have always kind of convivido, lived together in harmony because of the way we tend to live and how that complements one another. Oh, by the way, could you ask them to stop sweeping in front?
Sure.
Thank you very much. They're sweeping. So anyway, my whole point of that is thank you for being there, my Mexican brethren, or my Irish brethren. And I'm going to move along. Did you ever find principle number 2?
I have to buy the book.
That's okay.
I'll buy it right now.
He has to buy the book. So the question that I'm slowly, but in a roundabout way, getting to is, how can we heal a work relationship? And it is using the same principles. I'm going to go along to principle number 2. The step number 1 was we can't cast out darkness with more darkness. Step number 2 is we are either transforming or conforming. Principle number 2 is recognize that we are either transforming or conforming all the time. And the way I want to apply that to my relationships that I need to heal is going to be I have to look at the healing that has been presented to me and recognize, all right, I could either behave like this environment. I could either start this person that you work with, for example, who you are going to let down or have to let down or however that is going to play out. I could either, while I recognize the difficult behavior or the behavior that is unwanted or unwarranted or loveless in somebody else, I could either start to behave like that, or I'm going to transform that behavior and my environment by simply focusing on the principles. Focusing on number 2 reminds me, if I think that I'm going to ignore this, somehow move past it and not be affected by it, that is insanity. Because many times if I'm in a job, for example, like you were saying, I want to heal this relationship at work. It's good when we recognize that when a relationship is experiencing dis-ease. When we recognize that, it's important to work through whatever it's bringing up rather than simply cut it off and try to start a different one. If it's a job and we have an issue at our work that's bothering us, if we simply quit that job and go on to another one, it's going to happen. It's going to come up in the next job. It'll be the same issue, different person. Same role, different actor. The names might change. The problems will be the same until we work through them. If I find something wrong with Andrew, I want to fire him, break up with him, dump him. Andrew, you have been dumped, did you say? I'm sure.
No, never.
Never?
Never.
This is so great. When you when you dump somebody, rather than work through an issue with somebody, and then if it turns out that your path is not to be together in a romantic sense, because once you have a relationship with somebody, all relationships are forever. But if I decide for whatever reason, we do not, at this point going forward, really make a compatible romantic partnership, you and I. So I'm going to go that way and wish you love and wellness as you go that way. If I instead think I'm cutting you off, goodbye, and I break up with you and dump you before working through that issue, again, this issue will come back again. So I have to recognize this has been brought to me to transform, not to, cut off and avoid, because I cannot avoid issues and remain neutral. That's the name of the principle number 2. There's no neutrality in the universe. That's the name of the principle. It is an impossibility to think that the outside world is not affecting me and that I'm not affecting it. I just have to decide. Remember that to decide means to cut off from all possibility to cut off all other possibilities. I have decided, decidere, somehow the root of the word. If my mom is online, please tell. Oh, let's call mom. Let's do a call mom segment today.
She is online.
She is online. I can't believe she hasn't sniped us. What is she
Principle number 1, she says, is there is no neutrality in the universe.
Principle number 1 is there is no neutrality in the universe.
2 is that you can't cast out darkness.
Thank you. You can't. So the no neutrality part is I want to recognize I can't simply be neutral. I must recognize what my environment is and decide. I'm either going to transform it, or if I do not choose to do that, recognize I will then be transformed by it. So I'm either going to become like my environment, is that a good thing? Or I'm going to start transforming it. Sometimes, I'll sit back and let my environment transform me for a little bit. You know what I mean? That could be just fine sometimes if I'm at the Four Seasons Hotel. But if I'm at this Super 8 or the Lucky 6, I don't necessarily say, yippee, let me soak this in, which we're all doing. Remember the Palmolive ad? Andrew won't.
No.
But there was an ad on Palmolive. Whoever writes in right now and can give me the slogan for the beginning of the Palmolive ad when the woman says, do you have Palmolive dish detergent here? What the response was to her, do we? If you know what the tagline is right now, I will give you a free anything of your choice. Because I have to remember, as I go through life, that tagline from Palmolive is the truth. Did anybody write in with an answer so far?
Nope.
No? Okay. You're blanking in it. Okay? Anybody remember what it is now? Palmolive. She's at the nail salon.
Nope.
You're soaking in it. That was the line. So remember, as you go through life, when you look around at your environment is important. You're soaking in it. So you want to ask yourself, what am I soaking in? And choose to either transform or conform. So Andrew, by the way, before I move along to principle number 3, let's do we'll do the Call Mom segment later on. Does anybody have a question or a comment or anything that I should be answering before we move along?
They don't believe I've never been dumped.
He's 18.
Soaking in it.
Yeah, you're soaking in it.
Stacy Christine.
Okay, Stacy, we'll give Stacy something free. So Jean, would you please hook up Stacy? Send me an email, Stacy, to dan@danO'ConnorTraining.com, and I'll give you anything for free. I take the VIP package because that gives you anything you want for life. You can choose anything, Stacy.
Suki Jones says, "Holy cow! I'm from North Dakota as well."
Suki? Yeah. Suki, you're not Suki Collins? Was Suki Jones ever Suki Collins? Because really, Fargo, North Dakota, how many Sukis are there?
I don't know.
Suki, you have to answer because Suki Jones just wrote in and said, "Holy cow, I'm from Fargo, North Dakota." Fargo, North Dakota was a small town, and I knew a Suki. I was friends with Suki. There aren't many Sukis in Fargo, North Dakota, who are from there. So Suki, were you once a Suki Collins? Please answer that. Inquiring minds need to know. And do we have any questions, Andrew, or anything that we need to cover before we move along?
They have no questions.
This is not a very inquiring mind group.
They say the opposite of fear is love.
Yeah, the opposite of fear is love. Now, by the way, again, I try not to be religious. I'm not a religious person. I'm trying to pass on the principles that I have found helped me work through any relationship, or that I can see, as I do my research and communication training, everything is evolving always, and always comes to eventually, whether it's science-based or spiritually based, physical, metaphysical, there are certain laws that bind both the physical and the metaphysical universe, because the physical universe tends to be a representation of the metaphysical universe. And all I'm doing is gathering what I have found I can see historically and or scientifically. These are the principles that are always present in any situation that has healed. That, when there is a rift, or what is perceived to be a problem or a disease in the physical universe, at the same time that happens, the universe is self-organizing and self-correcting, self-healing. And anytime there is a rift, at that exact moment when it appears as though something is going wrong, the solution to that problem appears over here and is immediately working to heal whatever is perceived to be the problem. And we keep going. That so far has been the history of the universe that has never failed to be the case, when you look at things from a distance. So I have taken what I have found, maybe you have a 10th principle, but I have taken so far what I have found to be those principles that apply to every situation, and I'm passing that on to you. The reason I'm saying that is because when I talk about there's only love and fear, it tends to be there are two different sources. There's negative energy, positive energy. There's light, there's darkness. There's good, there's evil. Depending on what story it is that you use to make some sense of the universe that we are in, or there is love and fear. So somebody who just asked, is there love and there's just love and fear is what you're saying? What I'm saying is when it comes right down to it, there is going to be darkness and light, good, evil, God, the devil, love, fear. Now, some people would say that, one of the principles is the opposite of weakness is what? Can anybody who's listening tell me what the opposite of weakness is? Because just like there is good and evil, negativity, negative energy, positive energy, there's weakness and there's...
Me.
What?
Strength.
Wrong, Andrew. That's too bad. I wish I had a big gong here that I could gong and... But, that's one of the challenges that we face, is that people will come... By the way, did Suki ever answer?
Suki
Dookie doo. That's what we used to call Suki, by the way. If you're not her, you'd think, what is that all about? But
her name is Cecilia.
Cecilia?
Yeah.
And Suki is the...
Is a Monkiner.
Interesting.
Monica.
Like a nickname. Huh, interesting, Suki. Well, it's good to have you. And I did not know a Cecilia, although you're breaking my heart, Cecilia. So to answer your question, hold on, I can't answer, Mom. So to talk about, yes, there's only weakness and love, or excuse me, there's only love and fear. That's the name that we are giving to the two polar opposites that are constantly working against one another, that are, the two sources in the universe, good, evil, love, fear. And the reason that I have, over time, totally 100% subscribed to that and decided that, yeah, that's, by the way, we're not broadcasting, Andrew. Did you know that?
We are.
Really?
According to me.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's just me. That's just me. Forget it. I was afraid. I'm so afraid. We are either, when we look at it, what I have found to be the truth is, we are in a state of love. And the state of love is, I'm in my natural state. I come from love. Love is what makes me up. Love is what's in me but not of me. It's the only source in the universe that actually creates and is real. If it's not made of love, it is not real. And the opposite of that is going to be fear, meaning all of the bad behavior that I can see does not come from hate or does not come from weakness. It comes from fear. I am afraid that I will be exposed. I'm afraid that my love has lost, or I have lost love. I am afraid that you will see me for what I am. And if that happens, what will become of me. I am afraid that I am not what I thought I was. I am afraid of something, and therefore the negative behavior stems from that. That's what I have found. And when I first heard that theory, I didn't really believe it. I have yet, since I have really understood it, I have yet to find a situation in which that does not apply. So those are the two yin and yang of the 9 principles. There is either love or fear. And, depending on if you are religious or spiritual, you might have that as the basis in some of your, what you subscribe to as well. But like we were talking about with Andrew, we were talking about the opposite of weakness is what?
I said strength.
He did say strength. Do you know the real answer yet?
Chris on Fry says power.
You would think so. Chris says that the opposite of weakness would be power. And that's our challenge. A lot of women will come to me. This just happens to be women who will say this rather than men more often. Women will come to me and say, what should I do? I have the situation. I want to address it. I want to say something, whatever it is, but I don't want to appear weak. Women tend to struggle with that fear. By the way, anytime we are acting out of fear, that's when we are not, we are not going on the right path. It might seem like we're not. But people will say, I don't want to be weak, because women struggle with that more than men do. They don't want to be seen as the weak woman at work. And so they believe, many times women will believe, I've got two choices. I can either be the weak woman or the bitch, you know what I mean? So they will, and that is true that a man and a woman can act in the exact same way. We all know this. A man and a woman can exhibit identical behavior. A woman gets a very different label from the label a man generally would get. And that's the way it is. However, don't be afraid of that. When we make our decisions, it should be based on, if I'm, afraid of being weak, what's the opposite of that? The opposite of weakness. Weakness is what tears down buildings. Weakness is what is an illusion, and nothing can stand if it's weak. Nothing can survive. Nothing can, persevere. Weakness is an illusion. The opposite of all of that, the strongest thing in the universe, what keeps the planets revolving around the sun, or what turns that caterpillar into a butterfly. When you look at, when it's quite a mystical experience when you look at how the universe really works, and when you look at, these little signs that have been given to us to show us what truth is, and the caterpillar that is, a fuzzy little, worm that breaks down into a cosmic goo. It does not sprout wings. It breaks down and then reemerges as a different being. What makes that happen, the stuff, the energy that's in between the atoms and the molecules, that keeps us held together, that keeps all of us literally and physically and metaphysically held together. We can call it different things, but it's very rarely referred to as power, you know what I mean, or strength. It could be referred to as God, or what I refer to it as, Andrew, what's the opposite of weakness?
Love.
Love.
Everybody's showing love.
There you go. That's the opposite of weakness. And when you think about it, that's the truth. When you think about what made you, what keeps things going around here. When you look at when we have people who have truly solved world problems, who have individually changed the course of the human existence forever by their actions, those people who have, on an individual basis, like, he's on the tip of my tongue. Who is the guy? Nelson Mandela. When Nelson Mandela was in prison, for example, and then became the leader of South Africa, what brought him there to become the leader of South Africa, if you ask him, what did that for you, which eventually, singularly, changed the course of human history and the lives of so many people forever, what was it? He will tell you it wasn't strength. He didn't sit there and say, I'm so strong, I'm going to overcome this, and you will see, my enemies, you will see, you will rue the day that you put me in prison. That's not what happened. And when you look at, for example, Gandhi, or when I look at on an individual basis, the relationships that I know. For example, my mother and father, people will look at them and they'll say, how You know, how could you still face her, you know, with my mother? How can you look at her and get over it? I'm joking, Mom. But when I look at their relationship that has persevered for how many years? You know, how many years have they been together, Andrew?
Whoa.
No, when I say been together, they're no longer married. They're just friends. My mother has a new husband.
Like 40 years?
Like 40 some years. They have maintained intact the love that is not theirs, but was presented to them to take care of. It has changed form, and things change form, but the substance remains the same when it's real. So my mother loves her new husband in a romantic way and in a different way. The relationships that I have seen healed and persevere, the way that has miraculously transformed and strengthened is not through strength or power or anything but love. When I watch people who, Jesus, if you're Catholic or Christian, it doesn't matter. One person changed the course of human history. His message was one word: love. When you look at the power of that, that is the opposite of weakness. Therefore, the reason I say that is because when we're talking about a workplace relationship, many times we will think about strategy and what to do. And I'm all about that. I am all about strategy. But when you look at the source of true power and creativity, what grows things, what takes two things and is truly an alchemizing power that can take two things and make them greater than the sum of their parts and make them into a whole different thing, you know, that's a miracle. When you look at what that power is, that's only love, and it's not, there's no other name for it. And so when I am strategizing about what to do with my coworker that I have this problem with, that I'm going to let down, as you may have mentioned, it's the same foundation that I want to work back to as the foundation that I'm referring to and coming back to when I want to heal the relationship that I have with my mother, when I want to heal the relationship that I have with Andrew. I'm not there yet. But, you know, when I want to heal any relationship, there's one of the 9 principles, you know, getting back to this, and we're going to do many different shows on the 9 principles, but one of the 9 principles is there is only one relationship. You know, we talk about, in depending on what, if you are of a, you know, if you study religion or spirituality, many different ways. There are many different ways of talking about the Trinity. You know, people will talk in my Catholic faith about, what's the Trinity, Andrew?
There's the Son.
There's the Son. There's the Father, and there's the Holy Ghost. That is the Catholic interpretation of the truth. Because remember, truth speaks to us from many areas. Of the truth that we know that there is a Trinity out there. The face and name that we have put on it in the Catholic Church is there's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Because we only see men. But in the broader sense, the Trinity that we are all experiencing and a part of is, there is the relationship that I have with my maker, which is the relationship I have with love or God or the Buddha mind or the Holy Spirit or whatever you want to call it. That's one relationship. Then there's the relationship that I have with myself that's going on in my mind. You know what I mean? That I believe, the person I believe I am and how I relate to that person and how I love that person. And then there's the relationship that I have with everyone else on the planet, how I relate to my brother and, you know, my sister and my brother. And so when I think about those relationships, one of the principles names is to believe in separation is insanity. Because if I believe that my relationship with Andrew is separate from the relationship that I have with that difficult coworker who I'm struggling to deal with at work that you're talking about, or if I believe that that relationship is different from the relationship I have with my mother or God or love or myself, I am insane to believe that. So I must watch the way I'm thinking of the relationship I have with myself or God or Andrew or somebody else, because it's all the same thing. It's difficult for me, to realize how it's the same thing or why it's the same thing, but it is the same thing. The way that I'm relating to and feeling about Andrew is the way that I relate to and feel about myself. And so I would look at, for example, and God, you know, it's all one relationship. There is literally no difference. There is no separation. We can see that manifest in different ways, which we'll talk about some other time. But I know that that is the truth, because if you look at the relationship that you're having with this coworker, for example, that you are, the issue that's coming up, that you're working through right now when you say, I want to heal this part. If you're struggling working through it with that person, whomever that person may be, it could be your wife, it could be your coworker. If you have come to a place where you cannot work through it anymore for whatever reason. I can't do it. I haven't found the strength to forgive that person. Maybe they have hurt someone, else. And so we haven't been able to work through it. Focus on a different relationship temporarily. You know what I mean? Like, take a break, give yourself a break, and focus on, well, okay, if I can't forgive Andrew, because he just thinks he's so young and he thinks he's so handsome and charismatic, So if I can't work through that, I might focus on, well, who else do I think is just a show stealing, obnoxious, Who else do I think? Who else could I love a little more? That's it, is really the bottom line. Who else could I show more love to? Could I be a little more loving to and a little less loveless to? And I'm going to do that today. I will forgive myself today that I can't overcome, this growing rage that is just seeping out of my ears, it's rage. If I can't overcome that, I'm just going to take a break and I'm going to focus on the love that I have over here and growing that. And that's all there is. And I'm going to focus on that. Remember that. I don't have to teach myself any new tricks. I have to remember who I was in my natural state. And in doing so, ipso facto, I will be healing this relationship because it is the same relationship. And I can heal it not only in the present, but in the past and in the future. Because the relationship or the rift the rift in the relationship that I see is just an illusion to begin with, but it's showing me something I need to work through so that I can eventually heal not just myself. But think about when we do that. When it comes down to any spiritual train of thought, the bottom line is you are going to be either your crucifier or your liberator with every single person that you meet, depending on the person who you decide to be to them. And in doing so, when I decide to be Andrew's liberator, not that toy that they sell on Amazon, Andrew, not that type of liberator.
Oh, okay.
But when I decide to be, instead of imprisoning him with my thoughts, and thinking, you are supposed to be the love that I'm looking for that will set me free. And I'm going to put those chains on you until eventually I realize you're not, and then the whole world has been destroyed. Instead of that, if I decide to love him and forgive him, because remember that forgiving is the miracle that we can all bring to the world. If I can do that for him, I will be doing that for me, for every single person that I know. I will be healing miraculously the relationship that I have with God, and there is no other relationship. One person really can and does on an everyday basis heal the whole world. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And that's what each one of us can do. We can literally, miraculously heal the whole world from the time we started till the time we end. That's the miracle that we can all bring to this existence, and we can do it by the power of our forgiveness. If you have trouble doing it with somebody else, try it with somebody, try it with a different person and give yourself a break, because every relationship does affect every other relationship. So I wanted to touch on that principle before we answer a question, and then we're going to close for the day. Because what time is it, Andrew?
We had 47 minutes. It's been 47 minutes since we started.
The time for Andrew, it just flies by. He can't. It's like we are in a time warp when we're on the show, don't you think, guys? What type of questions? Oh, by the way, do we have any questions?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
We have many questions.
We have many questions. Well, there is only one answer. So give us the quiz.
First, could you give us Gina's email?
Yes, Gina. By the way, in Mexico we call her Gina, and she's
What's her real name?
Her name is Jean.
Oh, okay.
Jean, Jean. Remember, if you're Latin, there goes Gina, vagina. So we do that here only in Mexico. Her real name is Jean, Jean. It's Jean at Dan O'Connor Training, or you could just write me Dan at Dan O'Connor Training. So that's number one. What was another question?
Okay, a lot of people say isn't weakness good? And other people say that it's hard loving coworkers that they're insulting and mean.
Yeah. Okay. The one people are saying, isn't weakness good? Is that what they're saying?
Isn't vulnerability good?
Oh, vulnerability and weakness are two different things. Vulnerability is a strength. When you're talking about the strict definitions of those words, for example, to be vulnerable is actually one of the strongest things we can do, because when I am defensive, to be vulnerable means I am like again, when you look through the different stories of the human existence that tend to persist throughout the years because they have a ring of truth, they whisper to us, this is truth. Generally in that story, there is somebody who is laying down their arms and saying, go ahead, take your best shot. Like the great Pat Benatar said, hit me with your best shot. Right, Andrew? You know that?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you do that, when the part of the story or the religion, it could be a religious story, could be a fairy tale, it could be a Greek mythology. When that part of the story comes, when the hero, when the Christ, when the whatever it is, lays down and says, go ahead, when the Pat Benatar says, hit me with your best shot. What is happening is they are realizing anything that's real is not vulnerable to begin with. Anything that's not real, I don't have to worry about because it's an illusion. It's not real. So if and anything we defend, anything I take time to defend is showing other people that I don't believe that is real. And I believe it is vulnerable because we do not defend what we believe to be invulnerable, impenetrable, strong. What we believe is real, we don't defend. We only defend what we suspect to be an illusion or fake or vulnerable to begin with. So when people say, you know what, I'm at the end of my story. I realize that I am, and you are, and this is love, and that's all there is. So you can go ahead and take your best shot. Hit me with your best shot. What they're saying is that is vulnerability. I'm saying I'm opening up to you because anything about me that's real can't be hurt. It can't be torn down. It's impenetrable. So therefore, vulnerability and weakness are two different things. The reason I am showing you my vulnerability, my authenticity, the person that I am, the real me, standing before you naked, that is what vulnerable means. I am showing you my nakedness. No, Andrew, not literally. This is not the type of show.
Oh, okay.
So when we, Andrew he's kind of a nudist, so he'll prance around, like hoping the neighbors will look in his windows,
Yes.
Because he thinks, look at me, I'm so young and firm, and so he shows it off, and he thinks that's being vulnerable. But see, what I don't even know where I was going. Oh, to truly stand naked in front of another person, in the sense that I'm going to show you what I'm afraid of. I'm going to show you who I am. I'm going to show you the part of me that I think is a fraud. I'm going to show you everything about me that I'm so afraid is not lovable. That's what it is. I'm going to show you the parts of me that I don't believe deserve love. That is being vulnerable, and that is being naked in front of somebody else. And it's one of the most powerful things you can do. So because once you see somebody for who they really are, once you get to know anybody, once you truly know with a capital N somebody else, what you see, what you know is the love in them. And you realize it's the same love as the love in your mother, or your child. And it's so overwhelming sometimes when you get to that point. Like one of the parts of the healing process is you get to know somebody and you realize there's a moment where you realize, oh my God, I get it. I know with a capital K why you did that. Why you hurt me, why you do this behavior. And it's because you're afraid. And it's the same fear that I have. And the love in you is the same love. And now that I see that and I know you, I love you. And it helps tear down that wall. The only way to get there is when somebody is vulnerable enough to open up and show you that. And that requires great love and a lot of strength. So no, vulnerability is not the same thing as weakness. When you look at, for example, the people in the news, I was watching the news today and it seems to be the same story every day. The people who are using what they perceive to be the strengths at their disposal, the power at their disposal, it is because of the weaknesses they have, and they're afraid that other people will see those weaknesses. So I hope that clarifies the difference between vulnerability and weakness.
So I think it's...
If you don't have one of these, you got to get one. It's so satisfying. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Okay, got him. Sorry.
So it's about time. I think we're going to have to do another episode because there are
He thinks he's just such a timekeeper.
a lot of questions.
A lot of questions. Let's. Can you? It is time, Andrew?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I apologize. I'm having one of those bubble things, or my.
What bubble thing?
You know where you get a bubble, in your artery before you have a major coronary attack. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Where you have you have like a bubble. Okay, and then you can breathe. Okay, got it. What's one of the last questions before we close? And then I'm just gonna see if I can answer it quickly.
How do I respectfully tell my girlfriend to shut her pie hole?
Are you kidding? How do I respectfully tell my girlfriend to shut her pie hole? Let's talk about that. First of all, remember, Andrew, do we have any new, before I get to the pie hole shutting, do we have any new members or anything like that? Any questions we need to address before you?
Yeah, is there any place where they could get more information about this?
Yeah, okay, the more information part, really, when you look at the evolution of the training, of Dan O'Connor training, start at the beginning, go to the end, get the VIP pass. It's, I think, cheaper right now. If you send Jean an email or me an email, it is cheaper than the flagship product that I normally recommend. And now, just to the viewers here, so get the VIP pass. I mean, it gives you access to everything from now to an eternity. And it gives you access to information that we created before Andrew was even born. Yes. Thinks he's so young. So that's what I recommend to get more information. But going back to the pie hole shutting. By the way, if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please subscribe so that you can get notified. Because I'm going to be doing some surprise live editions at night. So Andrew, they're still family friendly, Andrew.
Oh.
We're going to be doing some live editions, and we are going to be doing some surprise. We're going to do our mom call. We're going to surprise my mom. She's, the thing is, my mom thinks she's clever. So she will watch these now. She never watched before, but she will watch these just to see if I'm going to be doing a sneaky, prank call on her. She taught me, by the way, to make prank phone calls long before the days of caller ID. So, remember the law, it's not one of the 9 principles, but the law of, everything's got a price and you will pay, Andrew. So going to the paying of the pie hole. How can you tell my girlfriend to shut her pie hole? Let's put this into just a little more context before I give you a quick answer and then we'll stop. When you need to tell somebody to shut their pie hole, what is give me the context. Are you saying, you're trying to get some sleep and you need to tell your girlfriend, oh my goodness, if you could stop so that I could sleep, then I could, make some money for you tomorrow? Or are you saying you just want to tell her in general, shut your pie hole, I have heard enough from you for eternity? Or are you saying, what is the context of this shutting of the pie hole? By the way, I would recommend transforming your relationship immediately from a romantic one. I would change the label. All relationships are forever, but it does not appear as though this is going to be a good romantic relationship going forward for you if you're asking that question and that's using those words. But what's the context, Andrew?
They don't give me context.
Okay, so if in general what you want to say to your girlfriend is shut your pie hole, remember, let's just go through some of the principles because it will always give you your answer. Well, if I want my girlfriend to shut up or my boyfriend to shut up, what I probably want is, you have to look at what do you really want there? What do you want? Because whatever you believe you want is going to be representative of what's missing, right? So there's something missing here that you want to bring. You're looking for your girlfriend to bring it. Silence, you know what I mean? But why? What's missing there? You want her to respect you? Do you want you want some peace? Do you think peace is missing from this relationship? Do you think, so before I would answer that question specifically, I would need to know, what do you think is missing? Why do you want her to shut up? If she does that, what will you get that you now believe is missing? Did you get an answer there?
Nope.
Okay, that's what we need to know. Because if anybody is experiencing this, maybe like the 2 men that live with my mom, they might experience the desire of, that the silence that they believe is missing and therefore would bring them peace, you know what I mean? So they might answer this, if they're watching. Or if anybody here is watching and you can relate to the question, please give me an answer of what you think is missing because you need to know what that is before you move along. Anything else that I can quickly answer?
Well,
I'll start, by the way. If I don't get the answer to that, I will start it the next time we talk about these.
Oh, well, we should say thank you for the members that joined us. That's Susan Hill.
Thank you, Susan Hill. Thank you, Susan Hill, for becoming a member. You get a special feather in your cap. I don't know exactly the feathers I'll be doling out in the future, but I'm going to think of some good ones for people like Susan.
Mary Schmidt.
Hi, Mary Schmidt. Thank you for becoming a member or being a member. And again, tell me what your thoughts are. How would you like to be rewarded for being members? Because I don't know. It's all new to me, but my language of love is giving and receiving gifts. You know, I'm all like, here, take some love. I just don't know what would be a representative, a good representation of the love for this forum. So let me know.
Sarah Thompson.
Sarah Thompson.
Thompson.
Hey, Sarah Thompson. Thank you for joining us today in your membershipness. I appreciate that.
G. Nelson.
G. Nelson.
G. Nelson, like the letter G.
G. Thank you, G. Got the big G here today. And G, you were with us last time, right?
Yes, he was.
Hey, thanks for being here, G.
He became a member today.
Hey, G, you became a member today. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Cora 6 says the VIP pass is so worth it.
Great, thank you. Who said that?
Cora 6.
Cora. Hey, Cora, I remember you. Cora, thank you for saying that it's so worth it. Yeah, because I'm going to be putting up a lot more stuff. I have been, in the past couple of years, if you didn't know this, I have been through a transformational process myself. And you know that there's only one way to truly transform, you know, as the story of the butterfly, as the story of the Christ, as the story of any, you know, true transformational story, you know, the phoenix from the flames. Andrew, what has to happen before you can rise and, you know, before the resurrection of a person can take place? What must come before the resurrection?
Become ashes?
Sure, become ashes. You got to be crucified, right, Andrew?
Yes.
Just say yes. You know, before the story of, which is the story, by the way, the truth that whispers to all of us, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter if you do not believe in any spiritual story, you know, or religion. We all know what we are looking for is for the transformation and the rising from the flames that we all desire and need and hope will come. We all know that what we need is a good resurrection. You know, that's what we all need to somehow rise. It can't be it. I'm looking to be something else and to transform. And when you look at the story, you know, how does that happen? How does somebody literally leave who they were behind and become a whole new person? That doesn't happen without a good crucifixion. And so a few years ago, for example, you know, I wouldn't say I was crucified, but I had my moment of breakdown, and it has been recently that now I am coming back and have risen from the flames. Andrew, I'm going to call Andrew. He's a little, you know, he's a little, he's quite on the straight and narrow, but I'm going to say he's a little flaming as well. So Andrew, you're rising from the flames, right?
Yes.
You are not. He hasn't been crucified yet. So what happened is, Andrew, if you're lucky, you'll be broken down, you'll be stoned, and you'll be crucified.
If I'm lucky.
If you're lucky, because then you will be somebody who will have the opportunity then to rise again. And so recently I have been rising again and putting more products out on DanO'ConnorTraining.com is the end of that, is the purpose, is the reason I was telling you that. And I'm putting out lots of new products that are in production right now. There was a few years that I just took a while to get up. You know what I mean? I felt as though I had fallen and I can't get up. If you've seen the ad. So it took me a bit to get up, but I'm up and I'm putting new stuff up, and what I have learned and the lessons that we have had here in the process are all, I'm trying to share those with everybody. So they're getting new stuff on Dan O'Connor Trading all the time, new courses, new products, and I hope you look forward to those, Cora and everybody else.
And on the social media.
Yeah, Andrew, we all know about your new your new purpose in life, you know, Razon, how does that go?
Razon de ser.
Yeah. So he's gonna Andrew's giving us a new face and a new purpose on social media, and I'm actually really excited about that because joining Andrew in his social media journey will be who?
Dan O'Connor.
Buddy the dog.
Buddy the dog.
Buddy the dog is joining Andrew, and they're going to have quite a following, I believe, because Buddy the dog is very wise, and he has a lot of lessons to teach. So he's going to be teaching them in upcoming social media lessons with Andrew. So I expect a lot of success from that, and right, and so I wish you and Buddy well, Andrew, and enjoy this time before you're for you taking down, Andrew.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's have Buddy stop in and say goodbye, okay? Let's have everybody, let's bring in Buddy, and we'll say goodbye to everybody with a big farewell from Buddy and Maggie. By the way, if remember, VIP pass, I'm with Cora, really. It just makes it makes everything so easy, and I'm all about being easy. If you need to train your staff at work, by the way, get the VIP pass. You can use it for everybody. And there he is. Hey, Buddy. Hey, there's Maggie and Buddy. So from everybody, Maggie is just such a hog these days. Yes, you are. Hi, Maggie. Maggie is, she's kind of won my heart with her, coldness, because some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. And she's the ice. Buddy's the fire, who has planted himself, by the way, at her feet, as, they tend to do. So, anyway, for everybody here at Dan O'Connor Training, oh, there's Buddy. There he is. Hey, Mary, say hi. Oh, Buddy he's performing a inappropriate, some would call it taboo sex act on Maggie. That's not appropriate. This is the family show, Buddy.
Why do they tell me to watch out? What did you say when I was gone?
Nothing. I wouldn't say anything against Andrew. Nothing. He's young and fabulous. For everybody here at Dan O'Connor Training, this is Dan O'Connor and Andrew and Maggie and Buddy signing off. Oh, Maggie, you got a little something here. I'm going to take off of there. Hagabaga. Goodbye. By the way, we do speak dog talk here, and we'll show you that in upcoming Buddy the Dog lessons. So for everybody here at Dan O'Connor Training, this is Dan O'Connor signing off. Goodbye.
Bye.
Say goodbye, Andrew.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.